The secret places for you to see. The summer house of fun within in a tree. Crawlers!
Stretch, logo, color change. And for some real creepy detailing.
Nothing defines childhood quite like toys, mainly because they leave kids with lasting memories. While some toys were previously popular, they have since vanished over time, following discontinuation due to safety concerns, shifting interests, or evolving trends in the toy industry. In spite of their absence in the modern day, they remain special in our memories. Join us as we discuss 10 beloved children's toys that disappeared over time. Number 1. Atomic Lab Kits. In the 1950s, dreams of outer space, rocket ships, and atomic energy defined young people's imaginations. Amid the atomic age, a dynamic creation emerged, grabbing children's attention and promising a scientific wonder. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab Kit was an extraordinary educational toy that delivered the marvels of nuclear science into young explorers' hands. Invented by Alfred Carlton Gilbert, an innovative toy inventor and champion for science education, the Atomic Energy Lab Kit was indeed a daring experiment. The toy was proof of an era when atomic power was baffling yet admired by many, symbolizing the essence of the scientific research that defined those times. The Atomic Energy Lab Kit was a real radioactive learning set and toy that featured autunite, cartonite, torbernite, and uraninite. The kit also had a Geiger-Moller radiation counter and a comic book featuring Dagwood from the popular Blondie comic strip. Gilbert, the developer, was convinced that toys were crucial in building a solid American character. Many of his toys had a form of educational significance to them. The Atomic Energy Lab Kit was among the many chemical reaction kits on the market then. Gilbert included instructions on how children could use the kit to enjoy their magic show. But the Atomic Energy Lab Kit was not short of controversy. As people became aware of the possible dangers associated with radioactivity, they raised concerns about the unit's safety. Many sought to establish whether exposing young people to radioactive materials was a wise thing to do. To add salt to injury, the toy was too expensive, and many families couldn't afford it, so it vanished over time. Number 2. Candy cigarettes. If you thought the Atomic Lab Kit was dangerous, you'll be shocked by this next toy. Imagine your children binging on candy cigarettes. Shocking, right? Candy cigarettes first emerged in the early 20th century, and confectionery companies marketed them eagerly as they looked forward to profit from the rising popularity of smoking among adults. The candies made for children stimulated the appearance of actual cigarettes, so much so that they had a paper wrapper. And what a peculiar excuse the inventors of this candy had for it. They said they aimed to introduce kids to cigarettes from an early age to encourage responsible smoking. Candy cigarettes would become a staple in many households in the 1900s, even with the rising health concerns regarding smoking. As societal attitudes towards smoking grew, candy cigarettes started losing their popularity. Between the 1950s and 1960s, candy cigarettes enjoyed remarkable exposure from the media, escalating their popularity. However, various organizations started making the public aware of the harmful effects of smoking. Others suggested that kids who ate candy cigarettes were highly likely to adapt to smoking the actual cigarettes, and this toppled the popularity of these candies. Candy cigarettes' waning popularity was attributed to the fact that society transitioned from perceiving smoking as a harmless habit to considering it quite harmful to smokers and the people around them. Smoking is linked to various diseases. It's not a habit that many people want to advocate for kids, who were in the past the main target for candy cigarettes. Shifting public opinions have been instrumental in the disappearance of candy cigarettes from the market. Number 3. Kite tubes. Kites are some of the most popular toys among kids. Nearly every child has flown a kite at one point in their lives. If you've never flown a kite, then you missed out on the pure excitement, fun, and pleasure that children derive from flying these toys. While kite flying was entertaining, kite tubing was disastrous. Kite tubes were quite popular in the mid-2000s, but their popularity proved dangerous within a short time. These toys were designed like kites but had an inner tube chained behind boats to enable them to fill up with air. Once the tube was filled with air, it would take flight and float over the sky. From the word go, it was easy to see that kite tubes were a disaster in waiting. While the makers of this toy had a commendable concept, they didn't consider a crucial element of kites. For the toy to work and attain its aim, the person flying it must be in control. Seems like the inventors made the kite tube in a hurry, forgetting this factor which would later prove to be costly. Once the kite tube became airborne, the boat captain and passengers didn't have control over it. Soon reports started flowing in of the tube flipping unexpectedly and throwing its passengers off the boat. Some kite tube riders were reported to have lost consciousness, ruptured eardrums, broken vertebrae, and punctured lungs due to crashing down into the water. The number of injuries kept rising, and by mid-2006, there were 3 fatalities and 84 injuries reported in a record 4 months. As a result, safety organizations couldn't take it, so they recalled the kite tube and illegalized flying boating tubes. Kite tubes were even banned in some places. Number 4. Cabbage Patch Kids. The Cabbage Patch Kids toy was popular in the 1980s. The history of this doll is contradictory, with some saying Xavier Roberts invented it, while others claim the toy was initially created by Martha Nelson Thomas. Martha's supporters claim that Roberts stole the toy idea from her, prompting her to sue him. However, they later settled that matter out of court. The popularity of Cabbage Patch Kids hit the roof by 1981, attracting the attention of the media. Robert and the dolls were being featured in magazines and even making an appearance on the Newsweek cover. What made the doll interesting was that each came with official adoption papers and even a birth certificate. The dolls were individually named and had a matching name tag. Consumers were wowed to receive birthday cards on the doll's first anniversary post-purchase date. In 1982, Robert couldn't keep up with the rising orders, so he opted to partner with Coleco, a toy manufacturer, to mass-produce the dolls. The demand kept rising, and in 1983, Coleco couldn't keep up either. So, when did the rain start beating Cabbage Patch Kids? You see, Cabbage Patch Kids was designed to teach kids how to be responsible to care for things they adored. The doll could be fed any plastic food, so kids had to feed it and ensure it was satisfied. But the doll couldn't stop eating, and it started to look like a hollow pit. Further, the doll was powered by a dynamic motor, which could pull kids' hair and fingers as they tried feeding them. Since there was no way of preventing the doll from attempting to bite the kids' fingers, parents became distressed. Due to increased uproar among users, the maker recalled the doll in 1997 and even refunded everybody who had returned it. Number 5. Austin Magic Pistol. Young boys and toy guns are inseparable. Many toy manufacturers have successfully produced and sold different types of toy guns, such as the water guns. This has convinced parents that toy guns are safe for their kids. However, nothing could have prepared parents for the Austin Magic Pistol. So dangerous was the toy such that some American states categorized it as a real firearm. Austin Magic Pistol was manufactured in the late 1940s and was designed to fire ping pong balls. However, it fired them with a dynamic force energized by explosive chemicals. The dynamic force came from the chemical reaction of water and calcium carbide. That meant children were handling materials that could expand to form acetylene gas and potentially explode. Simply dripping a little sweat or saliva on calcium carbide could trigger a fireball. The pistol, meant to fire ping pong balls, would produce a spark when fired. Some of the guns even broke or exploded during use. Soon, experts established that if the spark combined with the explosion and was activated by drops of sweat or saliva, the gun could explode. Immediately, this detail was revealed. The toy was recalled to protect kids and prevent fatalities. Number 6. Aquadots. In the early 21st century, experts converged to design a popular toy, Aquadots, for children from age 4 upwards. What they didn't consider is that kids put everything and anything in their mouths. The toy had loads of small beads with which children could create different dimensional designs and spray them with water so the beads could stick together. Aquadots looked like rainbow sugar-colored candy, and some kids would pick and swallow them. To worsen the matter, CNN reported that the balls had a chemical coating which metabolized into gamma hydroxybutyric, a dangerous sedative which causes euphoria. Children who ingested Aqua Dots suffered respiratory failure, vomiting, dizziness, and some even went into a coma. Surprisingly, it was named Toy of the Year at some point, making it to Walmart's top 12 list in the US. Later, the product safety organizations cautioned parents against buying the toy for their children. Aqua Dots maker was forced to recall the toy from the market to change the materials used and improve it. But this was after the parents of an 18-month-old baby sued the manufacturer following the child's hospitalization for swallowing a handful of Aqua Dots, forcing them to pay $435,000 in damages. Number 7. Sky Dancers. Sky Dancers remain some of the most memorable toys. Released in 1994, they were easily accessible and are remembered as one of the most successful toys of the 1990s. Dubbed the Flying Doll, each Sky Dancer featured a skinny plastic body, a launch base, and a pulling cord. Kids would pull the string to set the toy in flight and watch as they fluttered in style, fascinating children's imaginations. Despite its eye-catching design, it resulted in many cases of eye injuries, broken teeth, cuts, and even blindness, rendering it hazardous. Controlling the doll was a challenge, and the speed and unpredictability of its spinning wings were responsible for the many incidents. With the number of injuries rising, the manufacturer of Sky Dancers finally recalled up to 8.9 million pieces in 2000. After the recall, similar toys with better controlled flying mechanisms emerged in the market. However, none has since stimulated excitement and charm as much as the Sky Dancers did. Number 8. Clackers. Also known as knockers or click-clacks, these toys were popular between the late 1960s and the early 1970s. They consisted of 2 acrylic balls attached to a string. When swung up and down, the balls banged against each other and made a clicking sound. Children were fascinated by the swinging and clicking sound and could play for hours. By the mid-1970s, toy manufacturers had sold millions of these toys worldwide. At some point, Calcinatello, a small province in northern Italy, organized an annual competition for clacker enthusiasts, and that is where the hazardous side of the toy was discovered. You see, kids would get overexcited by the swinging and apply force while doing it. Then the balls would hit against each other aggressively, causing them to shatter and explode into tiny pieces, resulting in injuries and body cuts. The toy, which had originally been marketed as a tool to teach children hand-eye coordination, prompted the Society for the Prevention of Blindness to sound a warning. In 1971, the FDA put in place new safety standards, requiring manufacturers to conduct prescriptive testing and practice stringent record keeping. That impacted clacker manufacturers negatively, prompting them to pull the toy off the market. However, following its huge success in the 1960s, the toy resurfaced in the 90s, albeit in a new design. And in this case, the balls didn't explode. The only setback was that the children who had been fascinated by the toy were already older. Clackers are still very much around, and thankfully they are made of a non-shattering polymer. Parents no longer have to worry about their safety. Still, it will take a miracle to make them as popular as they were back in the 60s. Number 9. Polly Pocket. Chris Wiggs first designed Polly Pocket in 1983 for his daughter. He developed a small doll who lived inside a makeup powder compact. The premier commercial Polly Pocket playsets resembled a powder compact that kids could carry in their small handbags. Later, Bluebird Toys of Swindon, England authorized the concept, which saw the premier Polly Pocket toys appear in stores in 1989. In 1999, Bluebird Toys wrapped up when Mattel, a USA-based company, purchased it together with the Polly Pocket brand. While Polly Pocket continued existing, the outward appearance was redesigned. The doll's popularity shot in the 1990s due to their interactive nature and a portable design. But by the 2000s, the doll had gone through further changes, which included altering the playset designs. These changes marked the beginning of the end for these toys. There were concerns that the toy and its accessories had small magnets inside that could fall undetected, tempting children to either swallow or push them inside their ears and noses. When several magnets are swallowed, they can attract each other, causing intestinal perforation, blockage, or infection, which could turn fatal. Aspiration to the lung would require immediate surgery, while magnets pushed in the ears or nose could cause swelling, making them difficult to remove. These rising concerns resulted in declining popularity, forcing Mattel to recall some versions of the toy in 2006. Despite redesigns, none of the newer models had been able to match the charm of the original version. Number 10. Creepy crawlers. Children enjoy making things from scratch and marveling at their creations. This realization inspired Mattel, a toy maker, to develop a mini mold known as creepy crawlers. That kids could pour liquid plastic known as Plasti-Goop in the mold to create their preferred insects. They could make plastic bugs such as ants, frogs, and even spiders using Plasti-Goop. But there was a problem. Molds require heat to form. In this case, kids would pour the colorful Plasti-Goop into the molds and use small electric ovens to heat and solidify their creations, raising concerns about their safety. The creepy crawler set included molds for several imaginative figures like fighting men and creepy people. With this variety, kids could explore their creativity in different ways. Despite the fun kids had while creating creepy crawlers, the toy was discontinued following increasing safety concerns about the heating element, whose temperatures could be hot enough to cause burns. Many cases of burns were reported, and the Plasti-Goop was also considered too toxic. Creepy crawlers were reintroduced several times over the years with advanced safety features to manage the heating issue. Even with its discontinuation, the nostalgic memories of the original creepy crawlers have prompted various adaptations and revivals over the years. The lasting legacy of creepy crawlers is an indication that children are still captivated by the idea of creating their own creatures. And there you have it, the 10 beloved children's toys that vanished over time. What else do you have to add to this list? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to our channel to enjoy more interesting videos like this one.